what would be the impact of that? That's the question Sebrae in Brazil as a country has been working on. So first, let me just ask the question to you guys. What if you could train 1,000 people at one time around leadership? And what if those 1,000 people could train another 1,000 people each? What would be the impact on that country? The idea over here for Brazil was, how do you become a country of the future? And the way to become a country of the future was to have a whole bunch of individuals with a standardized framework of thinking, an approach on leadership that could be shared, communicated, and then made into a big difference. That was the goal. And Brazil started the journey a year ago, and we have just finished training 1,500 people. So the question to all of us now is, what is different about this leadership program compared to other leadership programs? So I'm going to ask Ron to maybe first answer the question, what was different about this specific leadership program that we put together? If you can spotlight Ron, if you don't mind, and spotlight myself. Thank you. Ron, I don't know if you got a question or not, and you're on mute. You're still on mute, Ron.
Am I okay now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. So I think the thing that was most different here is that most leadership programs, first of all, they don't even address generally in any detail the issue of ethics, which was the challenge we had with this one to start with. But the thing that was essentially the most different was this program was a peer-to-peer experiential learning program focused on adaptive and collaborative leadership and the powers of and. It's not, it wasn't choice and strategy. It was the powers of and, collaboration, adaptation, and new kind of tenets of effective leadership that represent the future for Brazil and all other countries, frankly.
Okay. Ron, and then the next question I have is, why does training 1,000 people versus 50 people? What was audacious about the goal, and what do you believe will be the impact of doing it at scale?
So the audacious part I thought was that we had 2,000 very different people. We didn't have people from all the same backgrounds, all the same parts of Brazil. Brazil's a huge country. So part of the audaciousness was the diversity of individuals we were teaching. Part of it was the scale and getting them aligned and having enough mentors who were aligned, who could coach them and help them with peer-to-peer learning. And then once we got them on board, they got very excited. The strongest testimonials I've ever heard in a course like this. And they learned from each other and they became a powerful network. So it's already a network of 2,000 people with several hundred who are mentors and coaches. And it has the promise of being an even larger network, but being very strongly a continuing network where they will learn from each other, share experiences, and become a powerful force in the future of Brazil.
Let me know when Manuel is on. Manuel, if you would like to join us on this panel. The question we have for Manuel is, Manuel, why did Sebrae want a program of this type? And give a little background on who Sebrae is and what was their goals and objectives.
So Sebrae is similar to the Small Business Association, SBA in US. It's a government agency that is focusing developing the country by fostering and supporting entrepreneurship and small and medium-sized businesses. It's an organization that has, it is spread around the entire country, basically all the municipalities, and they have different programs to support the SMEs of Brazil. So they came to us trying to, let's say, bring something new to their portfolio of products, basically trying to connect different methodologies around the world to the local need, trying to have the best of the world adapted to their local need, and of course, building strong relationships, one of them with GIMI, because they want to also add to their portfolio of products, certification, training programs, and so on. So basically, the program that we've developed was connected to the leader of the future, not the leader of the present, but someone who could let's say, be prepared for new types of challenge. As Ron was saying, let's say, the leader who has the capability to navigate in a time of uncertainty and change. That's basically the objective of the program for them, and their objective overall, building a global methodology, but at the same time local, and building connections with international, let's say, organizations and entities.
So the objective of today's meeting is to share with everybody what this leaders program was and what the outcomes desired were in this program. I'm going to share some slides. Ron, as you think about in your past experience working across the globe, where have you seen this sort of audacity, if you want to call it that, to train so many people and to make the impact at this level? Where have you seen that before, and where have there been winning models or successes of the past?
So just as starters, there are some business schools that train kind of the elite, like Harvard Business School, and build networks. And there's a lot of peer-to-peer learning, but with very traditional models, very old school, black and white kind of models of right and wrong and choice. So this was a audacious in the sense it departed from the traditional leadership models, but still focused on the benefits that you get from experiential learning, peer-to-peer learning, and building networks of emerging leaders. The other difference that made this more audacious, it wasn't with a bunch of elite, highly educated people at Harvard University. It was with small to medium-sized business leaders and supporters throughout Brazil. So a different cadre of people, but a cadre of people nonetheless who became very engaged, very immersed, and very excited about what they were learning and how transformational it was to their lives. I think, in fact, in the audaciousness was this was going to be transformational. I think in cases like Harvard, it's not transformational because it was just a continuation of leadership for these people. In Brazil, it was audacious because it was truly transformational on vision, on platforms, on portfolios, very transformational for the people who participated and for the mentors and for all of us. It was just a great experience.
Excellent. So let me share with the audience what the program really was. SABRAE, as what Manuel said, is the organization that wants small businesses to be successful across Brazil. There are 4 million small businesses in Brazil, 4 million. And each of those small businesses has got a leader, and that leader could be driven to think bigger, bolder, and potentially create a company which might be 10 times bigger, even 100 times bigger. And sitting in those 4 million are unicorns. Sitting in those 4 million are companies that could transform the economy of the country. And so the idea was to start by training about 2,000, and then learn from there to be able to train more people together. So that's who SABRAE is. Sabrai is a university within the organization. And that university has the mechanism to recruit the students, the leaders of these companies and get trained. And our role as GIMI Institute was to provide the content and the pedagogy, and IXL Center was the arms and legs to distribute the knowledge across the globe. Okay. So what was the fundamental idea of what this leaders program had in terms of what the business model? And can you see my slides just to make sure everybody can see my slide?
Yes, HP.
All right, thank you. On the leaders model, the whole idea over here was that a great leader has got two very strong characteristics. How to think and act like a management consultant, which basically means structured, disciplined, does things very effectively and efficiently. Think and act like a world-class consultant. But on the other side, you have to think and act like an innovator or entrepreneur. And the innovator entrepreneur was important because these are individuals who can imagine the future, create the future, and make it real. They are able to make decisions in ambiguity and uncertainty. But at the same time, they're able to execute with discipline of a management consultant. And when you bridge those two characteristics together, you are creating what you would call the leaders of the future. Right? And that was the branded program that went across the country. And if you were to go on LinkedIn just today, you'll see about 1,500 people will be announcing that they've got the certificate and training on this topic. The whole idea about these individuals, they're able to be focused on what's going on right now, but they're able to explore new frontiers. They're able to minimize risk while exploring opportunity. They don't just look at risk, they look at risk and opportunity. They are able to budget and invest simultaneously. And they build their own stuff and leverage others. And in there embedded was this idea of the power of and. The innovation consultants are very good at being able to do and stuff, while the management consultants typically drive things on an or basis. So typical management today thinks about, I should do this or this. But the reality is in the rapidly changing world, you have to be able to manage the and the ones who manage the end are the ones who are going to be winners of the future. And therefore, the umbrella around this thing was the powers of end thinking. Okay. So it comes out, as Warren said, there were 5 different topics to cover over here, four different sets of categories. One was about awareness and reflection. Do you know who you are? Do you reflect on it? And do you try and improve on yourself? Very basic thing that all individuals and humans should do. And especially for leaders, if you do not, then how can you get better on a learning journey called leadership? On the values itself, there are 2 elements: knowing that ethics were absolutely you can't compromise them, and they were not negotiable. You have to do the right things, and the right things will follow. But at the same time, leadership tenets are clearly important. Saying, what are you good at? Not necessarily what are you weak at, but what are you good at? And you double click on what you're good at, and then find partners and other people to help you complement on doing the right things, on the leadership tenets. But then number 3 was where our innovation components really have layer in from Global Innovation Management Institute. The idea of where do you want to go? Ambition-driven thinking, not condition-driven. What do you want the world to look like in the future? And what vision will you have to make that you real? And then not just starting immediately with your vision, jumping over to a project, but embedding 2 things in between the project and the vision was that you must have a platform to launch these things from. These platforms are focus areas. These platforms are things that allows you to act like 1,000 people and to do things at the power of 1,000 people. So building a platform to be able to do more was part of the development of this leadership program. And then the portfolio, saying no one project will get you to your vision. It's a combination of both projects. Some of them linked together sequentially, some of them in parallel, but put them together and there's a higher probability that you can get to the end game. And then ultimately, projects was a unit of execution. So this training program was done over 6 weeks. And in that 6-week period, there were 3 types of people being trained simultaneously. There were people who were becoming leaders, and they got a catalyst certificate. There were people who were learning to become coaches and mentors in the program so they could teach and train other people. So you could get a train-the-trainer program. And that allowed capacity build in the Sabrai University. That today Sabrai has got probably 200 mentors who can take the same program and take it out further. But the whole idea was train 1,000, train 2,000, within those 2,000, find people who can be multipliers, and then from those, continue rolling this program out, that within the next 3 to 5 years, 1 million people will be trained around this pedagogy, this content, and a pedagogy that allows it to spread. Okay. Just numbers for you guys to understand how does the numbers work. This is one cohort. There's multiple cohorts being pushed through the program. In this case, there were almost 1,200 core students in one cohort. 98% of those people were finishing the program. Now the question is, how do you get 1,000 people plus to take a course and yet get this sort of numbers? 98% completing the homework and work, 99% finishing as a cohort, 165 teams. We created teams for people to work together. And of those teams, the completion rates were 52 of them did 100% of the work. And the outputs they created, videos and feedbacks and everything else. Remarkable numbers in the program itself, because for a program to be successful at scale, you need to make sure there's completion, a high percentage of completion. You got to make sure that the outputs that they create are outputs that they can use, and there was interaction and engagement through feedback and videos. So this was some of the results that we got out of it. I wanted to bring this story to life for you as to what is the course. Very simple. Let's assume that we have done the ethics component of it and saying, what are your ethics, and nail that down. Let's assume we nailed down the growth objectives. So then what do? Well, the first part of this thing is, we got to figure out what your vision is. And we use visual tools and we use approaches that people could connect and relate to. Ron and myself were teaching this course. And because we were teaching the course, we used our own personal examples to bring things to life. So we said in 2000, we had the vision to democratize innovation globally. That was our vision. But if you look at the distance between where the bottom left is and the top right is, it's really far away. How do you actually achieve such a goal, right? And it will probably be impossible to achieve. So behind that was the idea that, hey, look at what you have done in the past. Look at what you're doing currently. Look at what you could do in the future, and combine all those things to create what we call a platform. And this platform allows you to tap into past skills, tap into past partners, players, tap into access to markets, access to resources and competencies, and you can create a platform that allows you to do big, bold projects that almost connects the bottom left to the top right. And this idea was the platform, and every human and every person can have a platform that certainly makes them feel that their vision is achievable, because it doesn't seem so scary anymore. So if you just look at yourself in terms of what you've done in the past, and you look at the vision, it seems almost impossible for us to get to that particular end state. Okay? So this was the notion of platforms. You have a vision. And then on that platforms, you have to come up with ideas of projects. What are the projects you were supposed to do? And we emphasize the importance of portfolios. Portfolio meant that no one project could get you to the end vision, but a combination of projects together could get you that. Whether you start with training, whether you do individual certificates, then you do company certificates, you build a university network, consultant networks, you create software, you get government certifications. The next second, it becomes believable that we as GIMI can actually democratize innovation globally. But GIMI by itself, if you look at it in 2000, you would say it's impossible for what it's trying to accomplish at this moment. But here it is on the journey to certifying 1 million people within the next 5 years. So that's the program at the high level. It's a leadership program. It runs 6 weeks aggressively, and it's got a certain sort of format and pedagogy that goes through this. I'm going to stop right now, Ron or Manuel, in terms of what was shared and why was it so easy for every person, all 1,000 students, to actually get excited by this program. So Ron, Manuel, just to get input from you guys.
So can you hear me, Hantendra?
We can.
Okay. So I think the first breakthrough was we started with ethics, which everybody thought was going to be extraordinarily difficult in the Brazilian context. But we anchored ethics, everything, on mutual trust and respect. Everything you do has to garner that trust and respect. And everybody bought into that. That was really a major kind of breakthrough in this whole kind of ethics arena. And then when we got to vision, what became clear was if you're really going to make a difference, it has to be a shared and a purposeful vision, just as it is for GIMI. So you have to be able to share it with lots of people, as we do with you and others, and it has to be purposeful. And everybody has to kind of buy into this is a vision I want to be part of. So getting people to work in teams and figure out how they could make their vision both shared and purposeful was a major breakthrough. And then we got to platforms and people threw up their hands. What in the heck is a platform? There was no word in Portuguese to define platforms. So we had to kind of make it up as we get along. But in the end, it became one of the major things that they thought was different, because what they could do is not only see what they had today and what they had with their partners and their teams and everything else, but what they would need to have to realize that vision. So the platform became part of the kind of objective of what they wanted to do. How do I build a compelling, actionable, sustainable platform that'll get me to that vision? And then portfolio was complicated because a lot of these people are used to just working on one project, and they kind of bet the ranch, as we say. And so as we got through the powers of and connecting the future with the present and high risk and low risk, the power of the platform, power of the portfolio became much more important. And they were then able to quickly transition to how do I do projects differently, and how do I create a leadership journey for myself that I can feel confident I'm going to move along. So that's what was different as far as I felt.
I'd like to add, HP, to Ron's comment. I think another big breakthrough was the fact that they also understood clearly how to manage the present and the future at the same time through the notion of portfolios mainly. And for them, it was especially if you are working with a SME agency or with SMEs, it's very hard for the, let's say, entrepreneur, for the business leader to think about the future and act in the present at the same time with everything connected, right? So I think they also enjoyed a lot the notion of portfolios that was connecting present and the future and trying to make a bigger vision, as Ron was saying, and being actionable and, let's say, possible to be executed.
Very good, Manuel. Ron, thank you for that. So just to make sure as people are watching, there was a very structured approach to how this program was taught. Every Monday, we were giving a lecture on one theme. It could be learning, it could be ethics, it could be vision, it could be platforms. And we would have an iconic slide to discuss about why lifelong learning was important, or why ethics were critical. And we would use case studies around those particular topics and discuss them through a Zoom webinar. And there would be 1,000 people in the webinar, and we'd use the topic for the week, ethics, for example, and then we'd use case studies and examples and storytelling to inspire people for an hour. It'd be around leadership tenets, and we'd use stories about people who have really driven leadership. It could be around vision, and then we spend a whole week talking about vision on Monday, and then they would work on that topic for the whole week. So one topic per week was covered using iconic examples from the world that everybody knew of, but then we also use local examples inside the country in Brazil of saying who represents this sort of story, and invite them to speak also in the Zoom webinars that we were doing, distributed across every state of Brazil. Okay, so the topics are covered. Go ahead, somebody's going to say something.
Yeah, the audaciousness of this, as Satendra asked earlier, I was just thinking, was that we could do it on Zoom. And I actually believe now that we did it better on Zoom than if we had done in-person workshops. I think it challenged us. Hitendra and I kept trying to convince each other, we can do this with Zoom, we can enable it with software, we can get everybody engaged, even though it is on Zoom. We can get them to share and learn from each other. That's what was audacious to me as I'm thinking now. And that's what really worked, because in addition, we had this objective of creating a network. And we had people from every state in Brazil, and they were all excited about being part of this network to change the leadership trajectory of Brazil. So that shared vision, that kind of capitalizing on the positive aspects of Zoom so that people could do it from their office or from their home, was a huge breakthrough. And I think what we've done is found a pedagogy that truly works with Zoom. It may work better in hybrid, but it works totally remote. And that was what was amazing to me. Being 76 years old, I didn't think we were going to be able to do this with Zoom. And we did. And that to me was what was remarkable about this experience.
Thank you, Ron. So this is how the week would be, 6 to 7 weeks. Every week there'll be a topic. Only on the first week we kind of go faster, but then we cover 1 week, one topic per week. It still felt very fast for the students, but it was at the right pace. And by week 2 and 3, they figured out how to work, and they're doing a good job doing the homework and everything else. The thing in between and within each week, which is really important, was this particular picture. I'm sorry it's in Portuguese, but I can explain it. Monday was the master class. And this is where Ron, myself were giving the lecture and trying to inspire the students. In the middle was Wednesday. We call this peer-to-peer or the flipped classroom. We had created leadership teams of 6 to 8 people who talked to each other and shared what they had done, and they gave feedback to each other. The belief over here is learning is maximized by the students teaching each other, because students are also adults and they've got enough knowledge collectively amongst the 8 of them to be able to really create powerful insights for each other, the nudges and the pushers and the commitments. And then on Friday, what we had was a show and tell. And the show and tell was basically saying, what did you do, and show to each other and share. And just like in Montessori or in kindergarten, people got excited. They wanted to show what they'd done. They wanted to show what it was, and they competed with each other to say, mine's better. Look at mine. Let me share with you. And that created a discipline that made them, to some extent, work through all this. Now, I would like to believe all this could be done without human intervention, which is not the case. Overlaying on this was probably the most powerful component of the program, the mentors. We had mentors who were nudging these teams, this teams of 8 people teams, all the way from Monday to Friday, every single day, every single week of the 6 weeks. Each mentor was responsible for about 40 students. And those 40 students were divided into 8 teams, and they met with them regularly to make sure that they were available to talk, nudge, answer questions, push, and everything else. And these mentors had to give personalized attention and team attention simultaneously to drive them forward. So on Monday, when we finished the master class, immediately at the end of Monday, they start nudging these individuals and teams to say, what are you going to show on Wednesday? What have you done to do something on Wednesday? And the way we simplified the work for the mentors was to say they just need to get videos ready. Videos was the output homework. So it was one very simple homework they had to do, was a video. And so now it was easy to say, where's your video? Let me look at your video. Give me feedback on the video. And it was videos by which people would record what their vision was, or what their platform was, or whatever it was. And those videos then could be shared amongst each other very easily. And we had a technology platform which allowed them to also give feedback to each other. So the mentors we simplified their lives in terms of how to manage these people through videos, but they were the actual glue which kept the whole program running together. And these mentors, I'm gonna bring some of them on the table, and in a couple of minutes ask them some questions, because they were actually touching the students. Ron and I never interacted with any of the students on a one-on-one basis. And the mentors were the ones who were actually pushing and nudging, and they would take guidance from us to be able to distribute it to 1,500 people at one go. So this was the pedagogy. We made sure there was a cadence. It repeated itself Monday, Wednesday, Friday, repeat, repeat, repeat. And that way the students learned the calendar, the mentors learned the calendar, we were respectful of the calendar, and it was easy to educate everybody, but also bring discipline to a process, which is critical. Okay. I'm just going to keep on showing. Part of the pedagogy also had the fact that we had created gamification, and we created badges which they would get proud of, And these badges were electronically being transmitted on the workbooks. And these badges were like, hey, did you finish what you were supposed to do on your homework? And digitally, they would get a badge saying, well done, you're an execution leader. Oh, did you create your video already? Wow, you're great, you are a communication leader. Ah, did you give feedback to other teammates? Ah, you're a collaboration leader. And so these badges were really powerful, again, to help the mentors nudge each other to push the students forward. Very, very amazing how that system indirectly was also supporting everybody to make sure every student was going to start and finish, every student was engaged, and every student was learning through the process on execution, communication, and collaboration, which were the foundational ideas of the leadership program that we had. Okay. So what I would like to do is then, as I share this last slide, the thing we also did was we made sure that they got artifacts. Students would get artifacts. They got business cards developed. They got posters developed of their vision, their strategy, their growth, and everything else that they could put on the wall, carry in the wallet, and this collection of videos that they put together, then they could share with each other forever. And these artifacts were really critical because people were very proud about what they had produced. And they wanted to show each other what they had done. And so having artifacts was critical and important. And these artifacts were a business card, which summarized your whole leadership journey, a poster that you can put on the wall and you can share with other people, a collection of videos of each of the topics all synced together into one video story of your vision and how you're going to accomplish it, and then a leadership journey book. So what do we have? A program of 1,000 people at scale. We could probably do it with 2,000. We could probably do it with 10,000. I don't think we can do a cohort bigger than 10,000 right now. But I would like to say very confidently, we can do a cohort of 2,000 without a problem. That's pretty remarkable. Second, the 2,000 students who took the program, we have got incredible testimonies from them saying they really got transformed and they really learned and they want to stay together and they want to start executing these visions. So this is quite remarkable in that front. And along the way, we built a network of trainers through the Uber mentors and through the mentors, so that the country has the capacity to be able to spread this again and again and duplicate it so that it can get to 1 million. This is what countries are looking for. How do you take thousands of people and inspire them to think about creating tremendous growth in businesses, growth in better universities, growth in equalizing social justice, growth in all kinds of good things that is out there. How do we inspire people to do that? And this was the program that was put together for these individuals. I'm going to stop sharing.
So if I can just add a comment, another power of and in this was thinking and acting differently. So this whole program was not just about how do you think differently, it was how do you translate that into action and into behavior that really makes a difference.
So what I would like to do, if you don't mind, and somebody help me, Irila or Larissa, can you bring in the mentors who have come to share with us their stories? And we're going to ask them 3 questions. So I see Leonardo's here. So just add spotlight on this. These were the mentors. These are the guys who made it happen at the end of the day. Right, this guy was sitting on the forefront, battling it out minute by minute, hour by hour, and doing what they were supposed to do. So the first question to you guys is very, very simple. Why was this program transformative for your students? Why was this program, and how did the students show that they were transformed? Why was it transformative for your students? So please feel free to jump in. You got about 30 seconds each, and we're going to go through multiple questions. Okay. So go ahead, Dan.
Okay. For me,
the most Dan, introduce yourself so everybody knows who you are.
Oh, excuse me. I'm Dan Strongen. I live in Rio de Janeiro, and I've been a consultant for many years, mostly in process and in the food industry, and now a member of the Uber mentors of IXL Center. a proud member. I think there are two things that were most important that made this completely different. One of which was self-reflection. It very rarely do you see a class, never mind a class online, where people are required to reflect and we respect their privacy in their reflections. I think that made a big difference in getting people to listen and take it seriously. The other thing was the spirit of the Uber mentors and Hitendra and Ron and Manuel and everybody being absolutely unafraid to make feedback and being very positive and helping each other. I think that was a team that really helped us leap into a breakthrough in productivity with people.
Thank you, Dan. Fernando, please.
Good morning, Fernando Grisi. I'm talking from Ribeirão Preto, São Paulo. I think the real deal is we mentors was as students first. You have to do it first to help people to do it later. And I myself need to transform myself to make it easy for me to transform the others. I think that is the secret, I think.
And that's a great point, Fernando. Everybody who has done this program or was teaching the program actually went through the course and learned it, and they themselves experienced some sort of transformation in the process. And therefore, they're believers of the program because they felt something. Rodrigo, you're shaking your head. You want to say something or no? Okay. So
Can I say something, HP?
Of course, Leonardo.
Okay. I just want to step back. I want to say the partnership with Sebrae was so successful because Sebrae is the few institutions that gets the whole country. In Brazil, we have like 26 states. Sebrae is present in all states. And we have like 90% of the companies in Brazil are small and medium companies, and 50% of the whole population works in the small and medium companies. So this strategic partnership with Sebrae allows, we give the methodology, not for just our states or region, but for the whole country. That's what was amazing and important. I had students from 16 states. So you get to know what they need, what they think, because Brazil is a continental country. So they assimilate the methodology. They could observe the methodology, in a sense.
Excellent, Leonardo. So a partnership with a company, organization like Sebrae allows distribution, finding the right people to recruit as students and everything else is fantastic. Leonardo, you're becoming a shadow for me. It's a very interesting shadow. Okay. Here's the question. How do you know your students learn and were transformed? What is the evidence that you guys have that your students actually were transformed? Some examples of why you believe that your students were transformed. Go ahead, Fernando. And then let me go. Let's get Rodrigo first, and then we get Fernando.
Hello, everyone. Rodrigo Castro. I'm speaking from Dubai. I think HP was the big and nice testimonials that we have received in the end of the program. So I have received many people contacting and sending us messages saying how transformative this journey was and how these 6 weeks of reflection made them really think of how to make new things to change Brazil, how to make new vision, platforms, portfolio of projects become a reality to change their lives, and not only to change their lives, but also to change the life of others. We have Rublia here in the meeting with us. She has just written her testimonial here in the chat, and these testimonials are examples of how transformative this journey was, not only for Rublia, but for these thousands of participants who joined us along this journey. So I think this is the best example of how transformative this project and this program was. The big testimonials of how this really has impacted the life of everybody who was really joining the program.
Excellent. Fernando?
Yes, I think it's not only because of the methodology, the videos, but the pitch sessions was amazing. When I was students, I do my videos, I do my pits. I was mentors, I watching lots of show and tell sessions. And the final was very, very emotional. And the people are telling us right now that they are transforming and doing something. I think is the two main things is methodology, and pit sessions was very, very difficult for us Brazilian to start a video and show I'm Fernando, I'm very crazy, but I'm a very student guy. Okay.
So what Fernando's talking about is every student every week had to create 2 videos every week, and they had to iterate and improve it, and then they had to share the video on Friday, and they did this over 6 weeks. So therefore 12 to 14 videos were created by each individual. On Friday, you had to share your video with everybody. So you were out there exposed, and you're showing vulnerability, and through the vulnerability, you created confidence, self-awareness, but also commitment to your ideas of execution of what you had to do. Daniel.
I think Fernando hit a good point on this iteration. It wasn't only in the videos, but in every part of the process, personally, and I saw with my people kept going back and redoing as they understood more. It became an iterative process. And also, I think many people mentioned to me that they had forgotten their vision. That when they were younger, they had an idea of what they wanted to do with their life. But through this process, the first time anybody asked them as an adult, and first time anybody valued it, and they got back to their vision. And I think that really helped get people excited and transformed.
Yeah, Dan, one of our observations also was we had thought everybody had a vision, and we had always assumed that everybody kind of knew what it was. What we found was close to 50% of the students said, do I have the right to own a vision? Do I have the right to have a vision? So that was the amazing moment of aha moment. And when they said, I can, that was enough of a transformation in the individuals saying, I'm allowed to do big and bold things. I'm allowed to do transformative things. And I can take whatever I want to do and I can make it 10 times bigger. And so it was really powerful in that sense. Let me change questions. How do you know, or how confident do you feel that this 1,000 people will make an impact on a country the size of Brazil? What kind of impacts do you expect to see with some of the stories that you already heard and the visions the students were trying to talk about? Hard question. Go ahead, Leonardo.
I think the daily work, they allow them, the leaders that are training, they manage to talk to so many executives, entrepreneurs. And what I ask in the stage of the program, should they start to do something that they learned from the methodology. At least 1/3 of them, they proved to me that they start to do something in the real daily basis working. So that I got excited that I saw how successful was the program. We can tell by the percentage of the people that will finish the program too. No one, these busy guys, managers, they work the whole day, 12 hours, 10 hours a day. How can they can finish a program if they don't get value from that? So 99% they finish that. So they understand that they can use that methodology for their real life and for their business and for teaching the other workers that they are together. I think it's like this.
That's great, Leonardo. Just the fact that people finish the program is one indication. The fact that many people are talking about driving the vision forward is another indication. But I think what is most interesting, what Leonardo said was, these guys were working full-time in the daytime, and they were taking this course in the evening. And yet the completion rate and engagements were phenomenal. So it must be something that touched them, and they saw that it was good for them. And therefore they wanted to start and finish this thing. Dan, and then we'll go to Rodrigo and Fernando.
Well, I'll give one example because this is Sebrae being an organization that works a lot in social causes as well as working with small businesses. And in Brazil, it's very difficult to separate the two because the official economy is organized around helping people who already have money. And so Sebrae is really one of the only organizations organized around building an economy in Brazil using what is really the majority of people who own small, tiny little businesses. And one example, a fellow named Carlos, who was one of my mentors in the first cohort, works at in education for Senai, which is another organization that helps larger industrial type companies do things. And many people in education Brazil have been discussing for a long time the necessity to develop vocational education, that the real wealth in Brazil will come when class B minus and class C have a road to improving their lives, economic road to improving their lives. And not only has his vision come to life, but he's actually well along in the process of developing within the state of Minas Gerais first, a system of education equal to what they have for vocational education. And I think that's an example of things that can make a fundamental difference to the economy and to the people here in Brazil. Excellent, Dan. Thank you. Rodrigo?
Yeah, and just to add one thing, HP, I think how impactful and important this program was is that we have students that are willing to continue replicating this methodology, even for people who are not taking the course. Like they are willing to replicate this to their sisters, to their brothers, to their family members, to their co-workers. Rublia, for example, again, just to mention her example, she is asking here in the chat if she is allowed to replicate this methodology to her friends, for people who work in her community, in her neighborhood, in her school, in her university. So this is really the best feedback that you can have of how impactful this program was. You have many people that really believe in the methodology and they are willing to replicate this and to multiply this in Brazil. So this, I think, is the best example of how this will be impactful and how this methodology has really brought value to Brazil and to these thousands of participants.
Excellent, Rodrigo. Fernando?
Okay, I talk about my expectation as a teacher since 2003. I think to change people, you have to change ourselves as teacher. Train the trainer is a very hard worker for everybody, especially for mentors, because we have gurus, we have Hitender, we have Ron, we have all the Excel team to inspire us. And my expectation is more innovation because we have big problems.
Excellent. So I want to wrap this. We're 9:55. This thing is supposed to end at 10 o'clock. If you could say specifically about the program, the methodology, or elements of the program, what was each one of you? Think of three things. What are the key success factors? What are the key success factors for the successful execution of a program like this? And you're allowed to say only one. And if somebody else has already said it, you must choose one of the other ones to share. So we can go quickly amongst each one of us. Think of the three key success factors of this program, and then you got 15 seconds to share. So let's start with Leonardo. Leonardo went first, so he knows he can say anything.
Okay, intense and short.
It's intense and it's short, right? So the time was intense and it was short. Very good, because people get bored, right? Who wants to go next? All right, Fernando.
People and technology, because people can work without technology and technology works without people. The big problem, I think.
Yeah, so there was a big emphasis on digital technology platforms, the workbook that we were using, the teaching on Zoom, the interactions in small groups, all was done through technology, and people had to become quite proficient on that for sure. Very good. Go ahead, Alex.
Alex Azevedo from Florianopolis, a mentor and Uber mentor in the first and second cohort. So share, share, and share. when you share your vision and you have the opportunity to share and receive feedbacks, is the way that you can improve your vision, you can improve your platform, you can improve your project. So share, share, and share all the time.
Yeah, so that was a great set of insight in there, saying if you want to share your vision, if you don't make it public, you don't get feedback on it, you don't repeat it, it doesn't become yours, it doesn't get better. And then it sticks on you because you said it. You have to do it. Yeah, so that's wonderful. Thank you, Alex. Ben?
Opening minds and opening emotions. Because I've never been in a leadership program that admitted that there was people who had to be leaders like this one.
Excellent. So empowering people, they were capable, they were able, and they should. And then somewhere in that inspiration through the mentors, inspiration through the leaders and the case studies of normal people. Rodrigo.
Yeah, and I would like to mention the relationship of trust between the teammates, their mentors, between the mentors and the Uber mentors, and also between the Uber mentors and the IXL team. So I think everybody was connected somehow towards the same goal. And this connection between the mentors and the teams, I think, was a big success factor for the program as well.
Excellent. Guys, you guys are the heroes of this program. Somewhere in here, you helped train 1,500 people, and hopefully the story of training of 1,500 and their impact will be in the magazines of Exami and Fortune and Forbes and other places. And we look forward to that. So congratulations for taking Brazil through this journey. And I want to bring Manuel back on and ask Manuel a few questions, very specific questions. Manuel, the people who are listening in are wondering how they could do a program like this in their own countries. And who are the right targets in, let's say, in Dubai or in Colombia or in other parts who would be interested in taking a program like this and saying, we should do it and we should spread it. And then who should fund it? How do you spread this message and get people to make this a movement around the world?
So good question, HP. I believe the first thing is trying to find those who are the shakers, let's say, people, leaders that are in a position to make change. They want to do the change and they want to be, let's say, game changers as we are talking. So in the case of Sebrae, for instance, we had a director of the entity, the organization, that it is a visionary, a guy who wants to foster entrepreneurship, innovation, leadership in the country. And he was holding the flag and saying, I want to make my country something better in the future. So I believe the first thing is to find this guy in your region, right? Or this lady. Then second, they need to free up a budget, because at least for the very beginning, for a pilot with 1,000 people, 500 people, whatever it is the number, you need to first prove that the program is impactful and it is really a game changer. So I think someone needs to, let's say, at least help to get traction in the market. And then other business associations, other government agencies, by looking the results of the first pilot, we will also try to engage and to use the methodology, because going to the second part of your question, it is a methodology that can be applied to, let's say, pretty much any size of business, industry, or let's say business, let's say, or leader objectives, because it is not about the business itself. It helps the business as a consequence, but it is about the individual, right? So I think it is something very powerful, because you can apply in different verticals in your country.
Excellent, Manuel. We are at 10:01. I know many of you have to leave. I hope this was covers a part of the presentation of this program. We're going to be here for another 10 minutes. If you want to ask questions, we'll take questions, but we understand if you have to leave. Thank you for participating in this program. It's called the Leaders of the Future program, and it's new. It's been tested on 1,500 students already, and it's ready to basically scale out into the objective for GIMI, 1 million certificates in the next 3 to 5 years. So it's the right sort of scalable program for all of us. Why don't we open it up to questions? And if anybody's got questions, please raise your hand and we'll add you onto the panel for questions. All right,
I
Kristan.
believe Cristanto.
First of all, congratulations to Hitendra and Sabre team. You got my 100% buy-in. And also Brazil is very much similar to Indonesia. Diversity, tropics, and a lot of confusion also. And we are very behind in the innovation initiative. So my question has been answered by Manuel, that I think the key strategic issue is leadership, buy-in of the national leadership, buy-in from the SME leadership in the country. If you got that, and then I think I will actually copy and paste the success of Brazil and make innovation work in Indonesia. Thank you.
That's great, Cristanto. Indonesia is very similar to Brazil in terms of a very large country and mostly on the coast. So it's got the same number of miles of beaches and culture and changes as you go from north to south. And it's got its diversity, very much like Brazil. As much as we see Brazil as one country, it is quite diverse itself. Thank you, Cristanto. Any other questions or comments?
Tendra, just a comment. We didn't mention that we are putting together, as we speak here, a video that includes, 10, 20, 30 different testimonials of people who participated in this program. And I kind of almost defy any leader who's interested in the future of their country to listen to these testimonials and not want to advocate for this program. They are incredibly compelling, and we'll be circulating that to all of you sometime soon. But I think that's a major way to get people engaged with this kind of initiative.
Well, what Ron's not saying, but I'll say it, is in our many years of consulting and teaching and preparing leaders of the future, the impact that we were hoping for was actually exceeded with this particular program. When we listen to the students and the mentors in terms of how transformed they are or how emotionally transformed they are in terms of what they want to do and how they want to work together, stay connected, and use the ecosystem of the teams to do much more. It's been fantastic. It's almost heartwarming and it's very satisfying. If this was the last project of my life, I would certainly say this is not a bad project to finish with in any sense. I mean, it was very satisfying.
HP, David Fernandez has a question. I would say, please, David, if you can ask the question, it's an opportunity as well to present yourself. David is a new CDP that we have for Mexico.
Hi, David. Welcome to David is our newest GIMI member from Mexico. Welcome, David.
Hello, Tendra. Thank you, Manuel. Congratulations for the results in Brazil. And hello for everyone. I'm David Fernandez, Mexico. I live in a city nearby Mexico City called Cuernavaca, and it's very nice city. I hope sometime you can come and visit. I have a question. What do you think is the winner strategy to get more than 1,000 leaders registered to this program? I know that there has been, you have been talking about the strategy on SMEs, on government, but what would you think would be the winner strategy? Because as they were talking in Indonesia, also in Mexico, we have very similar entrepreneurial, and company type of ideology and and all of this strategy that worked in Brazil maybe could be as you have talked, maybe a copy paste and tropicalize that strategy into Mexico would be a great idea. Thank you.
Manuel, some thoughts?
Yes. So I believe one thing that could work well is trying to, let's say, look for similarities, because we are talking about countries that are very similar, and we have a lot of cases that could be applied to Mexico, and you could start from there for sure. That's my, let's say, the beginning of the answer, HP.
David, my guidance on this is to get on a conference call with Manuel, with other people, and try and understand the similarities and differences. But Mexico is in profile not different than Brazil. And in the sense that it's in the same economic growth, economic transitions and all. It has got tremendous leaders, but those leaders are not being trained at the same equal level. And given the training with a discipline process, with a, as Manuel said, maybe a state, one state which is much more progressive, like where Monterrey is, or another state where maybe in Oaxaca, where there's a governor or a leader who says we want to do this and really transform the local area. The main message is train 1,000, and even if 10% make a difference, it will change that economy. Right?
And I would,
that's
this is Ron. I would say, the person we've talked about a couple of times, Eduardo, who's head of SEBRAE in Brazil, you need to find somebody who really wants to go for the gold. They really want to become the best. They want their country to become the best. They are inspiring. And when you get that kind of person excited about this kind of program and this kind of vision, then it's relatively easy, I would almost say, to get everybody else quickly on board. But just get one leader, whether it's a leader of a state, whether it's a leader of a university, of an association, family, whatever, get a leader who really wants, who from their heart wants to change the leadership trajectory of Mexico or whatever country you're in.
David, you're part of the community now, and you have access to Manuel, you got access to everybody, and there are people here who would say, Leonardo or Rodrigo will also say, look, I can help you in Mexico. So it's a global network, and we can work together on making sure Mexico is also beneficiary of the learnings of GIMI in Brazil and other places.
Thank you very much.
HP, I believe Bob has also a question, and a question from the audience here.
We'll get Bob.
So I'm trying to get to 1,500. So if I know, it looks like you had two cohorts. You had two Uber mentors, which would be Hitendra and Ron. You had 5 mentors, is that right?
No, we had 16 men.
16
Each mentor was managing between 40 students.
Okay, and we had 40 students. Was that in one group, or they were in like 8 per group and you had 5 groups?
The 5 teams. So if you want to know the structure is very simple. Teams of 8 people. 5 teams are managed by one mentor.
Yeah.
And all mentors are getting basically coaching and guidance from us, the Uber mentors.
Okay, that's good.
And then later on, we transition our role to the mentors to become the Uber mentors, so we can decrease our work. And so,
and we also started with 16 mentors, but we then trained another 75. So we have trained additional mentors along the way, who for the final cohort, we had more than just the 16 mentors. And then for the next cohort, which we hope to start soon, we'll have a full 75 coaching mentors to select from, so that they can each do 40 and we can get to scale and stay at scale.
Okay, that's very helpful. One more thing is, when you have the the people that are in the groups, who picks the companies or the CEOs to go in each group? And are they similar in terms of their industry, say agriculture or mining or whatever, or are they just very different?
So we thought a lot about that to make sure that there weren't conflict of interest, people shutting down, people feeling that there might be problems. And the thing that we ended up doing was time zone. Surprisingly, it was time zone was the most important thing, that they were all on the same time zone. And people were willing to share, because partly the SMEs are not exactly in the same geographic location with each other. So it was, we are not talking about companies which are going to change the world. They don't normally take programs like this, right? These are companies which have got some sort of pretty good winning product or service, which go, and their competitive advantage is usually location. It's not necessarily the product offering and scientific product offering. And so therefore there was lots of collaboration and all that. But if you feel that your population is made up of competitive startups, then you can certainly make sure that they don't sit in the same cohort.
And one final question.
A major priority from Sabrai, and that we completely agreed with, was diversity of thought, diversity of backgrounds in these groups. We weren't trying to get similarities. We were trying to get diversity and balance.
There were people whose vision was about social justice, equalizing women in the workforce or on boards of Brazil. There were people who were talking about race inequality and injustices. There were people who were trying to just grow the agriculture business, which is under the biggest pressure because small farmers are struggling. So there were all kinds of different types of people within very capitalistic business models, right? And they were all sitting to each other and learning from each other, and hopefully each one becoming a better human as a result of being with somebody different. And they stayed together for 6 weeks, giving feedback to each other. And so they have now a lifetime cohort, not so different than Harvard Business School, where you have little cohorts of 10 people who stick together forever.
And each section each week was for how long?
Monday morning was 2-hour lectures. Wednesday was 1 hour. And Friday was about 1.5 hours. It was a little hard to keep it under an hour.
Okay. Okay.
But there was homework in between. There was homework in between that they had to do.
Okay. Yeah. Two more quick questions. Was internet access a problem in some of the areas?
People would blame the internet for different reasons as much as your students claim the dog ate their homework. All right. The reality was that most people across the world now have got relatively good internet access in the financial group that we are talking about. We're talking about ABC people normally. We're not talking about D and E category of people. So they all had access, and they had phones which they could have secondary access, and they had the laptop. Our guidance was use the laptop to do the work, and you can always have a phone to listen and have backup. So we didn't see that as a major problem at all, although people complained. Just like the dog who eats everybody's homework all the time. Bob, you know your students are like that.
That's good. Thank you very much. These have been very helpful in terms of not only the testimonials from the mentors, but also the details of how this works. Because I can see a meeting coming up with my province technology vice president, essentially, and I can see how I can do a picture. This is good.
Excellent. Bob, David Chung, Cristanto, we have to do 1 million. We have to do 1 million. And the way we do this, we are already on the journey of 1,000, and 1,000 gets us to 1 million. 1,000 gets us to 1 million. All right. If each and remember, sorry, Ron. When you go, Ron, I'll finish.
No, I was just going to say, and most of the material has already been translated into multiple languages. So there's not going to be a lag before we can take it to leaders in any country in the world right now.
But if there's 30 CTPs, 30 training partners around the world for GIMI, and each one of you can do 30 cohorts of 1,000, we're done in 1 year. We're done in 1 year. So don't make me wait for 3 to 5 years, guys. Let's get this thing behind us and reset the target. Let's reset the target. Okay, any other questions before we bring this thing? Fernando Grisi says, I'm here to help. I like Fernando.
HP, we have one question from the audience. Rublia is someone who is interested to do the program next phase in Brazil, and she was saying that she is part of the woman leadership movement in Brazil, and she wants to know how this program can be, let's say, adapted for a specific need of woman leadership development, and if the methodology can be applied to the woman leadership movement.
What's her name?
Rublia.
Rublia. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Rublia. Welcome to this discussion group. Rublia, the program can be organized for females. It can be organized for minorities. It can be organized for retiring, aging population. It can be organized in any way you like. It's not hard to do. The program, 85% of it will look the same, and we'll change 15%, which will be the case examples and the case studies. And so there will be a little bit of work up front saying who are the female leaders, the female speakers, what are the case studies that we have in the US or in Europe or in South America, in Mexico, and then we bring them for the Brazilian context. We would love to do a female cohort. My daughter will love me and think I'm a great dad. And therefore, just for her, I would like to fight for this thing to make it happen. And I would like to even in front in line.
And in terms of Brazil, we had many of the participants who were women, who were advocates for women in leadership. And we had women coaches and mentors. We had female exemplars from countries around the world. So we certainly have a kind of volume of testimonials, examples, cases that we could use to target specifically the challenges that women face in this world.
Great. Dan, you got a question?
Not a question, just kind of a backup statement to that. I mean, I was one of the Uber mentors in the group, and quite obviously I'm not Brazilian, though I've lived here for a while. So I would say that the program actually is built in such a way that some of the usual cultural contexts are not as important because so much of it is based on self-reflection and on the individual. And that the language, in fact, I speak Portuguese, but there was a translator. And I think that also means that it's possible to do this, for instance, in Mexico or in other places or Indonesia, though most educated people in Indonesia speak English better than I do, but still, I think that the great thing about this program is that there's parts of it, the most important parts, which are universal in our world right now. It's truly global. This idea of the importance of ethics and vision and how to go about making your vision real. I think that's universal.
Excellent. So maybe just for specific next steps, Manuel, you might want to share what Sabrai is thinking of doing. And then maybe Ron or somebody from IXL can talk about what IXL wants to do also in terms of spreading it out. And then we wrap this meeting up. So Manuel, what's next for Sabrai?
So we are already, let's say, we finished this first part with those, let's say, thousands of people trained, and Sabrai is now adding one new module because they want to train more trainers. So we've trained an army of 150 trained trainers for Sabrai, so they can multiply the methodology by themselves. And now they just came to us and asked us to train another 80 people. And we are building a new cohort of 500 people in order to train another 80 trained trainers, let's say, people. And then, of course, for Sabrai, their plan is to scale this for thousands of people in different states. And we will be, as GIMI, will be building an ecosystem for Sabrai connecting all those states, connecting all those leaders, and we'll try to help Sebrae anyhow to, let's say, grow the program in a sustainable way. So we are transferring to them the methodology, we are transferring to them the know-how, and they will grow by themselves from next year on.
So Brazil by itself could easily, with 32 states, 1,000 students in each state, could easily get to 32,000 people in a very short time. So that's great. And then there's a network and an ecosystem of leaders knowing who the other leaders are, and that leader network will create another synergies that we don't even know what those outcomes will be.
And there are no limitations on what we can continue to do in Brazil, in individual states in Brazil, with individual constituencies like women in Brazil. And there certainly are no limitations on what we can do outside of Brazil and the rest of the world. So we have licensed this, we have transitioned the platforms and the information and the IP to Sebrae, but they don't have any exclusive rights. So we can take it wherever we want with any of you tomorrow. And we have software and we have all the enablers to make it happen. So there are no limitations. And so in terms of all of you who are on this call, we can jump in right away and help you take it to leaders in your country who would want to make this a major kind of part of their platform to change the leadership direction of the nation.
Excellent. Thank you, Ron. So just to wrap up, guys, imagine if each one of us could get 1,000 people trained. Imagine if only 10% of those people were able to make some sort of amazing impact. Imagine what they will write about 10 years from now as a result of a program that we all were part of. We have an opportunity to scale, distribute this knowledge everywhere. And it's easy, it's accessible, and people are feeling transformed. And it's sitting there for us to make the difference. We have been given a gift over here with this program, and Sebrae gave us the gift of actually showcasing it to the whole world. So with that, I will leave the simple message, guys. Let's get to 1 million certificates, and remember, together we can. Thank you very much, everyone.